After an undoubtedly wild finish to Game 4 and a Dodgers win in Game 5, we move on to Game 6, which could make or break the result of the World Series. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Penn State Sports Night. I'm Destiny Sanchez alongside Matt Szczypiorski and Lemmo. Tonight we will be covering this past week of baseball, as well as predictions for Games 6 and 7. Clayton Kershaw has had trouble in previous years during the playoffs. He got off to a bad start in Game 5, but battled through and erased any doubts fans may have of him starting as a starting pitcher. Between the Dodgers and the Rays, which team has a stronger pitching rotation?
Yeah, well, I got to go with the Dodgers on this one. I mean, look, Clayton Kershaw, we all know about his postseason struggles. He hasn't been amazing, but he's been good enough. In fact, I would say that this is probably his best postseason that he's had probably in his career. But the real driving force between this rotation for the Dodgers is Julio Urias and, of course, Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler has been unreal. In fact, through his first 9 postseason starts, he has been up there with Orel Hershiser and, of course, Madison Bumgarner and Curt Schilling as some of the lowest ERAs there through any 9-start period in the postseason. He's been absolutely electric. The driving force behind that, if you look at his pitch arsenal, is his fastball is great. I mean, 97, and he's got one of the top 5 spin rates in the MLB on that. It makes pitchers, hitters in the box, it makes it look like it's rising at you, but it's really not, which that's really tough to stick with, if you're hitting right there. And then, of course, he's got his off-speed pitches to complement that really just makes him a complete pitcher. In fact, I would go as far to say, you can come back to this in 10 years, whenever, okay? I think that he is better than Clayton Kershaw. I really think he is going to be going to the Hall of Fame someday. That is how confident I am in him. He is really good. I mean, I think he's Kershaw with the clutch gene. The only thing with him is that he does have that Tommy John surgery, that scar. So you do worry about that, and that's why they haven't let him throw deep into games. But man, I mean, when he is on, he is just so much fun to watch, as with a lot of that Dodgers starting rotation.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. I don't know about the Walker Buehler being better than Clayton Kershaw quite yet. It might be a little too soon for that. But I'm going to talk about the Rays pitching staff. Honestly, I think both staffs have underwhelmed in this World Series. It was a big talk coming into the series about the Rays and Dodgers both having great pitching staffs. That's how they got here. But both bullpens have been kind of shaky, and the Rays have not gotten anything out of Tyler Glasnow. Has made 2 pretty putrid starts here. And then, of course, Charlie Morton had a disastrous Game 3, I believe. Game 2, I think it was Game 3. Pretty disastrous Game 3. And then the bullpen has not also been as strong as it was in the regular season. Nick Anderson has struggled. He was their main guy out of the bullpen. He struggled a bit. I think, for the Rays, it's honestly quite amazing they've made it this far. They forced the Game 6 with the way their pitching staff has not performed. But Blake Snell had a great game when he started. He really brought the Tampa Bay Rays back. I think he started Game 2. They won that game. Blake Snell starts tomorrow night in Game 6. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that up.
Randy Arozarena and Ji-Man Choi were lighting it up in the earlier rounds, but both their bats haven't been as active in the World Series. On the other hand, Dodgers hitters like Mookie Betts and Justin Turner have come alive at the plate. Do you see the Rays hitters stepping it up in these last few games, or is Dodgers pitching that dominant?
Well, coming into the series, Destiny, the Rays, quite honestly, had a very inconsistent lineup. They don't have a star in their lineup. The way they're put together, they're a very team-oriented offense. They don't have one guy that's going to carry this team. Randy Arozarena has been that guy in the playoffs, but he hasn't been that guy so far in the World Series. I'm looking at a guy like Brandon Lau, who was probably their best hitter over the regular season, and then during this series, he has 3 hits in the series, which may seem bad, but all 3 of those hits were home runs. So I'm looking at him to really carry this offense through possibly Game 6 and into Game 7 for the rest of the way here. And with Tampa Bay, their offense has been inconsistent throughout the playoffs. And, you look at the 3 games they've lost in this series, and all 3 of those games they struggled to score.
Yeah, I mean, for me, really, it's obviously Randy Arozarena is the guy that makes this offense click. For me, this series, it was, okay, who can they get to step up behind him? Brandon Lau obviously had that massive Game 2 that propelled them to the win, but he's been kind of meh after that. The thing there, though, is that they've gotten guys like Manuel Margot and Kevin Kiermaier have been not amazing, but they've been good enough to score a couple runs here and there. And that's kept their offense afloat, but again, they're not going to be able to compete with this Dodgers offense that is just 1 through 9. insanely deep. But the thing with the Rays is, though, like you said, they just have random guys that come in and provide heroics. I mean, look at Phillips, okay? He came in and had the walk-off hit the other day. That was the first walk-off with the team trailing in the ninth and 2 outs since the 1988 World Series. I mean, that is absolutely clutch. The guy was just an MLB journeyman before. He actually came over to Milwaukee in the Josh Hader trade, went to Kansas City for a while, even in Tampa this year. He didn't have a big year and provides them with the biggest hit of the season. So you never know who's going to step up for that team. That's what makes them so exciting. But it all runs around Randy Arozarena. When he's hitting and has maybe 2 guys behind him that are hitting, this offense can compete.
As we approach the end of the 2020 season, it's time to decide the World Series most valuable player. Depending on the outcome of the World Series, who is your pick for MVP and why?
Well, I got, again, if the Rays were to win this series, I don't think they do, I would have Randy Arozarena. But I've got to go Corey Seager. I mean, he's definitely been the hottest hitter this entire postseason. And for him coming back from injury, you know, he had that big injury. I think he had Tommy John before. And, you know, after that, I kind of thought, okay, you know, is he going to come back and be the player he was before? And he's been even better. I mean, he has been absolutely lights out all year. In fact, I thought he was their best hitter all season. And on a team with guys like Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, to be the best hitter and most consistent hitter in that lineup, that is really saying something.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Chris. I'm going to say that Corey Seager is the guy that's going to win World Series MVP when the Dodgers wrap this thing up. I think, you know, Seager, he's far and away the best hitter in the World Series so far with a ludicrous .471 batting average. I mean, he's hotter than fish grease right now. He's got 2 home runs in the series. He's been great all postseason, and it's continued into the World Series.
After the Dodgers avenged their devastating Game 4 loss by coming back to win Game 5, will the Rays respond and force a Game 7, or will the Dodgers be hoisting the Commissioner's Trophy?
Well, I think with Blake Snell starting tomorrow night's game in Game 6, as we mentioned earlier, I think the Rays are going to fight back and tie the series, force it to a Game 7, which is what everybody wants to see. Everybody wants that Game 7. But in a Game 7 must-win situation, all hands on deck, I'm going to trust the Dodgers more than I trust the Rays. I trust their bullpen more than I trust the Rays. And I obviously more trust their offense than I trust Tampa's. Their offense is really, there's really not a hole on that team 1 through 9. And even the guys they have off the bench, they're all pretty good too. They can plug them in certain situations. Even with Dave Roberts taking that lineup there, I still think the Dodgers get it done in 7 and hoist a trophy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. I do think the Dodgers in 7. Part of that is because Game 6, Tampa has Snell going. The Dodgers have Tony Gonsolin. He actually had a great regular season this year, but he's just, the wheels have fallen off for him. I mean, he has an ERA of over 9 in his 3 postseason appearances so far. He's only pitched almost 8 innings only. He really hasn't made it deep in any start, so they're going to have to ride that bullpen in Game 6 if they even want to make it competitive. Game 7, though, I think they got Walker Buehler pitching it. If they don't have Buehler pitching it, then they may have Urias. We'll have to see who they choose there for Game 7. Either way, I think that they're going to ride those 2 guys. They could start Buehler, then flip to Urias. Because my thing is after Kenley Jansen the other night, after he blew that game, I'm not sure that they're going to want to go back to him in a Game 7. But I still think that with that starting tandem of Urias and Buehler and all hands on deck, I think that they can beat the Rays in 7.
I'll have to agree with you guys that pitching is going to be key to this World Series, and it can make or break the result in the end. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Matt Szczypiorski and Chris Lemmo, I'm Destiny Sanchez, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.